Hi everyone, welcome back to RTS and welcome back to our 4 for 4 series, and today we are going to be playing with layout 2, and with our layout 2 we're going to be playing with the grid design. So excited because I love this design, because as in layout 1 it's so quick. Okay, so let's go over the papers and then what's a few things we can do when playing with our grid. Now, of course, in this layout 2, I use 2 photos, but you don't have to, so keep that in mind. And then also, too, if you had any leftovers from layout 1, do not get them mixed up with what we are going to play with today. So I just have them in a separate little place here. And I shared a quote in layout 1, so I'm going to share a quote that was in this little 3x4 pocket card by Authentique. And it says, "Mummy's lap, the safest place on earth." Yes, I thought that was cute, so I thought I would share that. So let's go over the papers. And so we are going to be using 9 pieces of paper on this layout. 9 pieces, okay? Because we're going to do a grid, maybe some tabs, some photo corners. You never know. Okay, so here's the 2 photos. Of course, you can see I'm going to use some heritage photos, so I'll talk about that. And of course, I have my sheet here in front of me. What is my number 1? What is my number 2? What is my number 3? And what is my number 4? Because you cannot remember these details. At least I can't. Especially if you have a few days in between when you're working on your layouts in this series. Okay, so for our pattern number 1, okay, which is my floral, we are going to get 2 pieces. And these are going to be 3x4s. Okay, so there's my number 1. And there are 2 3x4s. Okay, and then for our pattern number 2, you're going to do the same thing. 2 3x4s. Okay, and then your pattern number 3, you're going to get 1 3x4, and then your pattern number 4, a 3x4. Okay, so all of those 1 2 3 4 5 6 pieces are all the same size, 3x4. Very, very easy to do. And then we're going to have 3 more additional pieces, which is your number 3, and these are 1x4. Okay, 3 of those. Okay, so we'll go over that again. 9 pieces total in layout number 2. 2 3x4s in your pattern number 1, 2 3x4s in your pattern number 2, a 3x4 in your pattern 3, and a 3x4 in your pattern 4, and then also 3 additional pieces in this pattern number 3, which is my blue stars, and these are 1x4s. Okay, so let's play with a grid using these 9 pieces. Okay, now these little pieces here are going to be little extras, so you can just put them to the side for a minute. And how we're simply going to do this is we're simply going to build a grid out of these 6 blocks. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so I have 2 of my number 1 and 2 of my number 2. So I would want to distribute them. So you see my number 1, I have 1 here in the left, top left, and 1 in the bottom right. And then same way with my number 2, and then just alternate, okay? It doesn't matter where you put any of your papers, okay? Doesn't matter at all. Now that is the simplest form of a grid. You find the middle and have equal margins. I think my top may be a little bit more there, okay? And then you can get your T-square ruler and you can absolutely get these all lined up, and they can be all straight on, and you can have, you know, about a 1 inch here margin, a 1 inch margin here, and then probably I'd say almost a 2 and a 2, okay? But it doesn't have to be exact, and you don't even have to get out your T-square ruler. You can just eyeball it and make them a little cattywampus on purpose, okay? That's the easy way to do a grid. I mean, look at that. Still the same effect of a grid, but you didn't have to get out a T-square. You don't have to be so particular about it. Just make them a little cattywampus, okay? So you can do it straight on, okay? Just like this top row, straight on, all square, straight, and linear. Or in the bottom row, a little cattywampus, a little bit more whimsy. Okay, then what do you do with these 3 pieces? You can simply use your corner rounder, and then you're going to make tabs, and so they could insert. You can cut them down, or you can make tabs. You use your corner rounder or leave them the way they are. That's fun there too. And then another thing you can do is put one down here as a little bit of an embellishment cluster here. And you can put one up here as an embellishment cluster here. Very, very fun. Okay, you see what I'm saying? No wrong way. You could even keep this top row straight and linear and cattywampus your bottom one. Absolutely. Or you can take 2 of these and anchor them down at the bottom and only use 1 at the top. No wrong way. And then another fun thing to do is you could use one here as a photo corner and one up there as a photo corner, and then maybe use this and get a little bit of an edge punch design with your edge punch, or absolutely use one of your other punches, and you don't have to get the whole thing in there. You can still get a decorative look with a little piece of paper. So no wrong way to do that, okay? And you can just play around with these. You can even put one in the middle there if you wanted to, okay? So that's another option. Very, very fun. Okay. And then another thing you can do is then you could also come down here if you're doing a whimsical page, just line them up and make a little bit of a mini shelf. How fun is that? Okay. Now remember, with our 3x4 squares, we also had an extra piece of paper, our bonus sheet, our buffer sheet. So you could absolutely figure out how big your grid is going to be. Cut this a little bit bigger and then use this as a big block behind all 6 of those pieces. Or you could take your bonus sheet and do a mat for each one of those, or every other one. It doesn't have to do, you do not have to have a mat on every one of these to have the effect. You could do a mat on this one and this one and this one, and it would look pretty. Or you could take a mat on this one, and this one, still be pretty. You don't have to do a mat on every one to get the effect of having mats. And then also too, I had an extra piece of matting and some specialty paper in my kit, so you could also mat with that. So no wrong way. Okay, so I have 2 photos for this layout, and I will just be probably playing, and I would tell you that's exactly probably what my layout's going to look like, and I am not going to be straight on. I'm going to do this quick and fun and whimsy, and so I will just eyeball this in the middle, and then I probably will do tabs with these, I'm thinking, and I probably will do some matting, and I'm using 2 heritage photos, and I will leave, I will straighten up this edge where this has Scotch tape. Remember, that's how photos used to be put in an album, with Scotch tape. And none of this is flaking off, but if it was flaking off, I would take off this top layer, but it's pretty solid on there. I may straighten up my photos. See, this has a rough edge, but I'm going to use them as is. I'm not going to do anything special with them, maybe just straighten up that edge. And they are going to go on, and I think they're going to go on, I think maybe like that. I think so. Okay, so it's my mom with her dad back in the 40s. Yes, that's a heritage photo back in the 40s. And so then I may play with these with my scallops or my edge punch. And then another thing that I may do when you come back is that I may replace one of these 3x4 cards with something fun, because we're going to be talking about embellishments. Now, with my 2 photos, I wanted to show something. If you feel that your blocks, your grid is floaty, don't forget that you can always take ribbon and washi and also 2 ribbon, and you can make yourself a wider shelf down here, okay? And then that feels like all of your grids is sitting on a shelf. You can definitely do that. You can make this as long as you want. There is no rule with that. I could even get some of this pom-pom trim in. Yes, because I'm doing a layout about my mom and her dad, so I can use pink and blue both. Yes, okay. So I could just keep layering that and get some textures on there. Or what you can also do is put a ribbon around your squares before you adhere them down. You can put washi on there, and then also don't forget we have our lovely border strips. Okay, so if you want to make yourself a little bit of shelf down here, you can absolutely do that. Okay, and then another thing I want to show, and I will have the go-to design for our grid design, I will have that linked below. You can definitely look into that for more design issues when it comes to the grid. But here's another thing. Remember when I did my happy horizontal and I did an offset? You can absolutely do that with the grid design too. You simply just take your grid, okay, and you shift it down, okay? And then what you could do is you could put a title here, and say you had more journaling than normal for a layout. That is one way to do a grid. You do not have to put it all straight in the middle. You can shift it down here to the bottom. You can shift it up there to the top. And then you can also, if you rotate your page, instead of me moving that, see, I could do my grid this way, and then I could do my title this way and journaling down here, okay? Just have fun with all that. Just move these blocks around to get whatever design you want. There's no wrong way at all. No, you could even have 3 going across this way, overlapping them, and you could have 3 going across this way. Of course, I probably would do that at the opposite. I would have my 3 going this way, my 3x4s going this way, then I could have my 3x4s going this way. See what I'm saying? No wrong way to do those grid blocks. Those blocks to make that grid, okay? I can keep coming down here, and I'm going to probably make some tabs out of those. I think so. I think I probably will make some tabs and maybe put them on that. You know, as my photos. And then also too, with my photos, I'm probably going to give them a mat so they stand out a little bit. Very, very fun. Okay, so that is what I'm going to have for my layout two photos, but you don't have to. I'm definitely going to be playing with my 9 pieces of paper, 6 grids, okay, 6 3x4 to make a grid. And believe me, your grid can be any way you want it to be, okay? You can have a margin, or you can come close like this. Oh, isn't this a pretty design? Let's keep on playing. Yes. See what happens? I get to playing. So you could take these and butt them up to each other, and then wherever that seam is, you could use some ribbon and some washi. I have done that several times, and I have always loved this design. Oh, that makes for nice, too. And then you come over here with your 2 photos. So basically you took those 6 3x4 blocks and you basically made them into 1 block in your background. You come up here with your title, do some journaling down here. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, I might have changed my mind now. I had it in my brain how I thought, but I really like that. I really, really do. And you know, I have this bonus sheet. I could get this gray in there as well. Oh, very pretty. Okay, so I will be back with my layout 2 using 2 photos and doing the grid go-to design. Okay, so hang on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my finished page. So let's talk about where those 9 pieces of paper landed in my layout 2. Okay, of course you see I have 2 photos on there, but we'll talk about that. So my 9 pieces of paper, I had 6 3x4s, and they were in a grid. They were in a block, you know, and so I made a grid out of them. And then of course I had 3 of these 1x4s, and I used that for embellishments on this piece of grid right here, and we'll talk about that because that was the embellishing I did was on my grid pieces. So if we just go to the bare bones of this grid design, our go-to design of the grid, what do we have? We have 6 pieces of 3x4, that's it, on a mat with a border strip and some ribbon, and that is my design. Of course, now with my design, I put that on a piece of cardstock, and then I did an outside mat with my bonus because my bonus sheet was my gray check plaid, that type of paper. So I used it as a mat for my grid, okay, my 6 pieces of 3x4, and then I took that outside mat to this back, you know, to the layout here. And so I got asked a question if I could show how to actually gut a piece of paper, and that's exactly what I'm going to show later on here at the end, because if I flip this over, there is my bonus sheet, okay, that's my bonus sheet, and then I got out this amount, okay, so I got to use that bonus sheet twice right here, okay, and I even have a little piece of a leftover, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. So how did we simply do this? I just took my 6 3x4s and I just lined them up in a grid fashion. I didn't even break out my T-square ruler. I just kind of guesstimated. You see my margins aren't exactly perfect. It didn't matter. I just did not want to break out. Nothing has to be perfect, but I just adhered those 3 there, centered them, and I centered those 3, and that's how simple this page is. And then I just finished it off with my ribbon, which I used some score tape, and then also to a border strip. That is all my design is on a piece of, this is wood grain embossed cardstock. Love that. I think that came from American Crafts a few years ago. And then of course my outside mat of my number 5 paper, my bonus. Okay, now you don't have to mat your grid, okay, and you don't have to mat your layout. It's just something I did, and just another option for these go-to designs. I mean, so simple. And then also too, you'll notice with my grid go-to design, it's shifted down just a tad. Why? Because I knew my title was going to be a little bit bigger, and then also to my journaling. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I wanted to show down here for this pom-pom ribbon, pom-pom trim, and I really like this pom-pom trim because it definitely has the look of pom-poms, but they are such low profile. I think they have less dimension than a piece of wood veneer. How fun is that? So what I did for that pom-pom trim is that I took my score tape directly to my paper. This is my score tape. I took it directly to my paper, and then I put my pom-pom trim on top of that. It's easier to do that, okay? It goes on much easier, okay? And so then, of course, you'll see that I have a visual triangle of my clusters, but we'll talk about that. And so my journaling, I want to talk about that now before I forget. Okay, so again, my go-to design of my grid right here on a mat, and then on my background, and then that's on a mat. That is how simple simple. But then with that grid design, I played, and we'll talk about that. So my journaling is going to go underneath this D here for Daddy, because this is a layout about my mom and her relationship with her dad. And so my journaling is going to go here. And I think I'm absolutely going to use a white mat of this cardstock, and I will just print my journaling on another piece of cardstock and layer it on top of that because of this paper clip. Because if you notice, I have paper clips on these heritage photos. I'm talking from the 40s. Yes, okay. And so I put a paper clip there. So this simple little addition of those 3 paper clips give me a visual triangle just of those paper clips. Okay. So now let's talk about the photos. Okay. So with my grid design, okay, and I'll just leave that there, but that'll probably stick up a little bit. Let me get a piece of removable adhesive. Okay, and when I'm filming, that is how I will lay my journaling down a lot, is with removable adhesive. This is by Pioneer, and this is also what I use if I'm printing on a journaling card or a piece of paper. I will adhere that to a piece of copy paper using this removable, and it works very, very well. You don't get very much on there, but I don't use it all the time. And so then if I want to take that off, my journaling will go there. Okay, so the photos. You notice with my go-to design, everything was shifted down a little bit because of my title, and my journaling's going to go up there. And then my photos are down here. And so I anchored them down here in the corner. So my title's here, my journaling here, and then my photos are here. And what does that do? Those 3 elements, the 3 main elements we do on a layout, those 3 things make a visual triangle. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit more too. So I took these original 1940s photos and I overlapped them a little bit, gave them a little bit of a cattywampus feel because my grid is so linear. I wanted a little bit more of a softness, a little bit more angle, so I angled them a little bit. And then I just put those on top of, this would be my number 4 pattern and my number 1. Now with those 6 3x4s, play around with them in the design you want. You may want both pinks together. You may want both of your florals here and both of your pinks here. There's no wrong way. Of course, I said pinks, but you could put both of your number 1s here. You could put both of your number 2s here. You could put them side by side, stagger them up, you know, one on top, one on the bottom. No wrong way to do that. I just distributed the color. Here's a floral, here's a floral, here's a pink, here's a pink. But you can do that however you want. And then my photos went down here. And then, of course, I did 3 little clusters. Okay, so, of course, you can see I have a wood veneer here. It says Cherish. That's my subtitle. And then, of course, over here, another couple little word stickers. So we're going to talk about, I think that was basically, of course, I had photo corners in the corner. Okay, but then with my embellishment clusters, I have some flowers, I have some sequins, I have some wood veneer, I have some pearls, and I have some metal sticker from Making Memories. I think it was like 2005. Yes, as a door, it's on there, and of course some enamel hearts. Okay, and I adhere basically all of those things with my Scotch tacky glue, and then also to my sequins. If something doesn't stick, and for example, this wood veneer did not stick because it's on a few layers, I had to use a super glue. So those are my 2 favorite adhesives, yes, by the Scotch Create brand. Very, very happy with that. And on this super glue, this is what I use for my sequins. It's like 0.14 ounce. It's not very much, but it's more than what I thought it would be. So that's still this first bottle. So I'm happy with that. Okay, and so then of course we're going to talk about more embellishing in just a minute, because I want to come back and we're going to talk about how I embellished these grids, because that's the embellishments on this. Even though I have visual triangles here, but I also embellished my grid, my actual 3x4 pieces. So hang on just for a minute. I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that is basically my go-to design, my grid. Here is 3 3x4s. Here's 3 3x4s on a mat. And I just added a little bit down at the bottom, and I shifted it down. That's all that is. Very, very simple. It doesn't look like a simple page, is it? No. It's because of the use of color, and then also to the design, which is so quick. It's grid. Okay, so hang on for a minute. I'll come back, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do a baby ruffle, how we're going to layer some pattern paper on top of pattern paper, how we did some border punches as embellishments, added some twine, and then also to how to gut some papers. I have a little bit of a tutorial if you want to see that. If not, this is how the layout 2 ended with the grid design. Very, very pretty. Yes, love that. And I will tell you, for my title that says Daddy, I would wanted to use what I asked my mom, because this is my mom and her relationship with her dad. Okay. And of course she called him Daddy. She still to this day calls him Daddy. And I wanted to use a nickname. And so I asked her, did your dad give you a nickname? And she said, no, he really didn't. So that's why I used Daddy, because I wanted to use the nickname that, you know how we give our children nicknames. So if my mom would have had a nickname that her dad would have gave her, that's what it would have been. But she didn't have a nickname, and so that was interesting. So that's why it's called Daddy. Okay, and so with that, with the choice of this gray, it was because that's the only choice I had, because I had to have 3 D's for the letter Daddy. Just like if the word mommy, we have to use 3 M's. So that's the only embellishment, or the only alpha I had in my kit that had 3 D's. So that's why I did that. So since that introduced gray, I made sure I had a gray sticker here and a gray sticker here. In fact, you know what? We might as well just do that. Have you one hang? We'll just talk about visual triangles. We'll do that right now, okay? Because I got to ask that question if I could go into a little bit more detail about a visual triangle. So let's just talk a little bit more. Okay, so a visual triangle and visual interest. Okay, so let's talk about that. So in my clusters, I have a visual triangle here, here, and here. Those 3 spots create, right here, that creates a visual triangle. But then if you notice within my visual triangles, I have wood veneer, and that makes a visual triangle. Just those 3 pieces right there make a visual triangle just of the wood veneer. And then you'll notice my sequins right there, and right there, and that makes a visual triangle too. Okay, and then also too, the use of enamel hearts. I have one here, and one here. So within my visual triangle of my embellishments, I have even more visual triangles of those particular supplies. So just like with the enamel hearts, I made a visual triangle. And then of course my sequins, and then my pearls, okay? And so then what else I wanted to talk about is visual interest. So within your clusters, your embellishment groups, it doesn't always have to be a visual triangle. You can just do a diagonal design and have 2 embellishment clusters. It doesn't always have to be 3. But I wanted to show that to create more visual interest within a visual triangle is to layer embellishments and layer embellishments. Okay, so if you see on this 3x4 grid right here, I have a sticker with a Making Memories metal piece with an enamel heart. So right there is layered. And then on that sticker again, I layered a piece of wood veneer. And then over here with the sequin, I layered a pearl. Over here on top of the label, I have a wood veneer layered with an enamel heart. Don't forget to put embellishments on top of wood veneer. Very, very fun. And then again over here with a flower and the sequin, I put pearls on top of that. And then down here, I have a sequin with a pearl, and then I put a sequin overlapping that sequin with the pearl, okay, which overlaps my photo, okay? So that's what I wanted to talk about when I talked about visual triangles, just in the fact that you have embellishments grouping in 3 different places, that will create your visual triangle. But within the visual triangle, you can keep going with that same concept of a visual triangle. For example, these yellow enamel hearts, that simply makes a visual triangle. And then also too, you'll see a pop of yellow. The pop of yellow here in the flower, the pop of yellow here in that sticker, and this pop of yellow here in that twine. That is another visual triangle. Those were all done on purpose, okay? So, and then also too, what I wanted to say is another thing for visual interest. When you're talking about visual triangles and embellishment clusters, you don't have to do the same thing in every one. So you see here, I have a sequin with a pearl, a sequin with a pearl, but over here I did a different pearl because I just ran out of, that. And plus then I had used it there, so I didn't want the same thing. So when you're doing a visual triangle within your clusters, you can give more visual interest if you break it up. So instead of a pink sequin here, I have a pink sequin here. I could have used a yellow sequin here, and I could have used a blue sequin there. So even though I was using the sequins, they don't have to be the same color. That's what I wanted to say. To add some visual interest within your visual triangles, you don't have to use the same supply. You don't even have to use the same color. It's just like sequin, sequin, sequin. Enamel heart, enamel heart, enamel heart, and pearls, pearl, pearl. They don't have to be the same color. They don't have to be the same size. They don't even have to be the same shape to create a visual triangle. That's what I want to talk about. Okay, so now I'm going to come back a little bit because I have a little bit of prep work to do here, and we're going to talk about this baby ruffle and some other thing that you can embellish your 3x4 to make your grid. Okay, so hang on. Okay, so let's play just a little bit more. So first of all, we're going to talk about how to gut a paper, and then we're going to talk about how we can embellish even more these little 3x4 blocks that we use to make up our grid. But I wanted to address a question I got just today as I'm filming this, and the question is how do I deal with heritage photos and heirloom photos? Do I use the real deal? And for me and my family, yes, I absolutely use the real deal. And these are from 1944 and 1945, and so they are not they're not copies, they are the originals. You can tell they still have the yellowed Scotch tape on there. Love how that adds character to this page. And then also too, I did not make a copy of this because I don't need to make a copy. Once these photos are scrapbooked, then they're scrapbooked. I probably won't ever do another story about these particular photos again. But with that being said, they are not removable, meaning when I put something on a page, they're there to stay. So you can approach it a few different ways. In regards to using old photos, heritage photos, heirloom photos, it depends on how you consider them. You may want to make a copy of the original and then use that copy, or you may want to use the original but then be able to remove that, and that's where photo corners come in. You can absolutely do that. But for me and my family, meaning my siblings and my parents, the buck stops here. What does that mean? Meaning that I am in possession of these photos because I'm basically the only one that'll do something with them other than keep them in a box, okay? And so, but then with that, I do take photos of my layouts when I do something that is in regard to my family or my heritage, and I share it with my siblings and my parents. So they'll still get to see this again, just in a different form. And so, again, this type of subject using heritage photos is very personal. There is no wrong way, there's no right way, and don't let anybody make you feel guilty because you're using the original. Because say to yourself, if you do not do something with them, who's going to? I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. There's people that don't even back up their photos, don't even save their photos, don't even print their photos, but yet those are the same type of people that want to tell me what to do with my photos. I don't think so. I just want to say that. So, but luckily for my family, they understand I'm the scrapbooker. I'm the one that records the history, and so I'm going to use these, okay? But then I do share this story with my family. So they still get the advantage of that photo, if that makes sense. So I thought that was a good question. So post below, do you use original heritage photos? Do you not? Do you put them in temporarily so you can remove them later in case someone wants a copy? And so I look at it this way. If someone wants a copy of this photo, you're going to get a copy of this whole layout. That's just, and I would gladly do that for anybody in my family. I would gladly do that. So there's still the option of sharing. You're just now getting the whole page. Yes, the whole story. So I wanted to address that. I thought that was a great question. Because in my layout, you can see I absolutely adhered embellishments and wood veneer to my heritage photos because, again, the buck stops here. This is the last place for these photos, and I want them protected. Okay, so now let's talk about gutting this 12x12 paper that I used for my background because I got some questions, and could I actually show that? So if you want to keep on watching, keep on watching. Yes. Okay. Now, what I have here is just a 12x12 piece of paper, and then with my trimmer, and I think for most trimmers, there will be a guide on your blade that will show you where your blade is going to cut. And I'm going to put this a little closer, and I hope I do not get a glare. But if you see right here, these little marks, this right here, that little grid line form, that tells me exactly where my paper's cutting. So when I'm gutting, I go by this little, what do I want to say, that little cutting guide right there, that little slit, that tells me exactly where it's cutting. So to do a 12x12 piece of paper, oh, this lovely guide. I need to address it sometime, but I don't have time right now. So what I want to do is that I want to use this gray paper as a mat for my entire layout, but then at the same time, I don't need to cover all of this up. I can use it again, right? So what I do is I usually come to this 1-inch mark, or I will go to the edge of my trimmer right here, okay? It depends, okay? Now, I will tell you one thing. The thinner your cardstock, the thinner your paper is, okay? I shouldn't say cardstock. The thinner your paper is, you want to go wider with this over here. Meaning, because if you go skinny, say if I only went to a 1/2 inch, okay, you're going to have a very, very thin piece of paper in a very small manner, and it's not going to hold up. So if your paper is on the kind of the thin side, give yourself a wider mat for stability. Okay, and we'll talk about that as I show you the back side of mine. So this is not the heaviest paper. It's okay. I'd say it's medium weight. So I'm going to go clear to the end of this trimmer. It's just something I do. And then I just go up a little bit, maybe about an inch, inch and a half. And then I just guesstimate. It's no right way, no wrong way. Okay, because I just want another piece of this paper. It doesn't have to be exact size. And so I can see right here, this is where I started cutting. So I will take my blade and I will put it right over my gully, and see right here on this guide, it's telling me where I'm cutting. Okay, so I'm just cutting down. I'm just stopping. And I'm going to do the same thing. I can see right here's where my cut is. That's where I started. And again, that little guide right there, that little slit on that blade is telling me where it's going to cut exactly. Okay, so you can already see it's getting ready to pop out. And so then right here's my last cut. So I'm stopping here, starting there. And so I just try to get them to line up. It's not going to be exact. Okay, and right there. That poor blade. And so that is how you gut a piece of paper. And so then I have this again to use for matting, or as you can see on my layout, I use it to mat my 6 3x4 blocks. But then you can use it for embellishments, or if this is a piece of paper you spent $1 for, you get a 2 for 1. Yes, but then remember, this is not the thickest piece of paper. So my mat isn't the skinniest, because see, you see what I'm saying? That's not a very thick piece of paper. So the thinner the paper, the thicker your mat you want to be. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And so I will show you on my layout, when I turn this over, that is what I gutted. Okay, and so then I have not I'd say about a 1-inch mat here. And so then for stability, what you can absolutely do, sometimes I'll do this, sometimes I don't. It depends on the weight of the paper, but this isn't a very thick paper. So you can just take washi tape. Now you don't need to use this much washi when you do this. I just did it for filming purposes so you could see it. But you can put washi and just help stabilize that mat on that piece of paper. Okay, because this white here is my actual background. This white here, and then right here is my mat. Okay, so you see more of the mat on the back than you do in the front. Okay, but then that washi helps it, keeps it all together nice and neat. Okay, gives you some more stability. Okay, so that is that. So now let's talk about playing with these individual 3x4 blocks if you want to. Let's just keep on playing. Yes, because I said in this round that we were absolutely going to play with embellishments. Okay, so when I say playing with embellishments, remember you can embellish with paper and you can embellish on paper. It's not an actual embellishment that you bought or you made. You can absolutely embellish with paper, and that's what we're going to talk about here in this layout. Oh, my poor blade. I just need to call Fiskars and say, yeah, can you send me another cutting guide because I messed it up. But anyways, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this 3x4 block right here, and then this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay. So here in this one, I'm going to put this a little bit closer, and this is, I'm going to call it the baby ruffle because we're in the baby round, but it's the ruffling of papers. And so how did I do this? Okay. So again, it's a 3x4 block. Okay, so what I have here is my 3x4 block of paper. Okay, now I'm going to lay these here because I have these in order and I don't want to mess that up. Okay, so how are we going to create this ruffle? And you can do this a couple different ways. Okay, so you can actually just take your 3x4 paper and you just cut it in strips. Okay, there's my 3x4 paper. Okay, cut in strips. Okay, and then you can just use these strips together and ruffle your paper, but I think it works better if you take these strips and put it on another 3x4, just a piece of scrap. Okay, and in my layout, that's exactly what I did. I took these strips, and behind this is a piece of white scrap because I think it's easier to play with than, and I've seen some people that they just do the strips and work it that way. Okay, but I think it's easier if you put them on a piece of scrap. So here's the 3x4 block. Here is the 3x4 block cut in strips. So now what do you do? Okay, so what you can do is, I'll just use this removable. Okay, that way I don't have to get out my big clunky. So what you do is you just take some adhesive and you run in the middle of that strip. Okay, and then you're going to adhere each one of those. And I say start from the top, start at the bottom, start at the top, it doesn't matter. But just run some adhesive in the middle and you're going to just stack them. Okay, And you don't have to be perfect on this because it's not going to be perfect when you're done because you're going to be adding some interest, okay? And so all I'm doing is putting some adhesive in the middle. And you notice when I cut up my strips, you see how they are not the same width. I did some a 1/2 inch, some a 1/4 inch, some a 1/4 of or 3/4 of an inch. I varied it up. Okay, now I will say when you're cutting those strips, make sure you keep them in order because see, your paper has a pattern. You want to make sure you get that same pattern. So as you're cutting your strips, keep them in order. Okay, now I might be off a little bit there, but it's not going to matter. And why I like to use white, because you're really not going to see it, because if you flip this over, that's white. Okay, so all of those pieces, see how quick that was, are adhered. Okay, and so then what you're going to do is you're going to take the tops of those papers and you're going to rough them up, whether it's with your fingernail. It's really quick. So that's all you're going to do is just rough it up, okay? And don't be too rough with it, okay? But I just want to show you, okay? And then you can just do the top of that piece of paper, okay? And don't worry about if this is going to come off or anything, because you're going to fix that here at the end, okay? And so I just used a fingernail, okay? Or you can use anything that you have as far as your tools to rough up your paper. But a simple little fingernail or a little emery board, okay, that would work as well, okay? And then it's up to you how distressed you want those. But that is the ruffling of paper. And so that you would do that for the top of this row, the top of that row, the top of this row, the top of that row, and then you would just keep on going down, okay? And then you can flip it over and then do the bottom of them if you wish to. It doesn't matter. You can ruffle both edges. Okay, let's go to this middle piece here, the biggest piece. You can ruffle both of those. And so the ruffling effect happens when you distress that. So can you see that? See that ruffling? And then once you're done with that, you would just come in with a little bit of liquid adhesive and adhere those down when you're done ruffling, distressing that paper. So in a row, what that looks like is this right here. That is just now I did not ruffle both sides. I ruffled the top and the bottom of this one and the top and bottom of this one, but on all these it was just the top row that I distressed. You don't have to do each one. It's up to you. But definitely when you cut your strips, keep them in order, and that is what we call the baby ruffle. What I'm calling the baby ruffle. It's just ruffling of paper, that ruffling your paper, distressing, but it just creates little ruffles or little ripples or whatever you want to call it. So now let's work on this one. It's very simple, but again, we're embellishing with paper. You did not have to have anything to do this, and that right there is an embellishment. You could do this for an entire background mat or an entire background on a layout. Isn't that not just fun? I just really enjoy this. And then if you go over it more than once, you're going to get bigger distressing, bigger ruffles on that paper. I mean, very fun. Very fun on a vintage paper, vintage layout, or also a little girl baby, as how I use that. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. The next one is just my 3x4 piece of paper here. Now what I did for mine is that I had some leftovers from my layout 1, but you can absolutely just use scraps or a paper pad. They don't have to match, but it looks better if you can, okay? So for this one, okay, here's my 3x4 block, and then I just took my circle punches in 1 inch and 3/4, and then I just punched circles. And so what you're going to do is you're going to embellish this paper with the same paper that you're using, okay? So you're just punching shapes. And so what does this do? It just gives you interest, and it gives you a little bit of dimension. And then if you want to give some texture, what you can do is that you can rough these up as well, or you can also put some of these on foam tape if you want to. Let me just do that because we're just playing. Yes, I'm supposed to be spring cleaning. So you see what I'm doing. Yes, I'm using this as an excuse that I don't have to get back to cleaning. Okay, so you can simply put some of these on foam tape. I mean, is that not fun? Again, embellishing with paper. Didn't cost anything. You already have punches. And then also, too, as you're doing this, I think it's fun when you're doing this to use an odd number of circles. I think it's more appealing to the eye, but some of this may get covered up. And so be careful not to put foam tape on your 3x4 block, or whatever you're using this on, do not put foam tape on where something may be over top of it, okay? But you can also then take your circles and then come to the edge. They don't have to be complete circles. You see what I'm saying? You can just put those to the edge. Very fun to do. And that is how I did this right here. And I'll have some close-ups of each one of these 3x4 little blocks at the end. And that's all it is. Very, very fun. It looks embellished, and all it is paper on top of paper. Now let's talk about this 3x4, because I think this is so simple, and sometimes we forget to do this. Okay, so there we have the ruffle, we have the circles on top of the paper, and then, okay, what's the next one? Oh, this is, oh, very, very fun. So this is, again, taking this 3x4 piece of paper and then taking some stickers. I like using label stickers for this. And so what I did on my layout is that I just took a label sticker, and I probably will not get that straight, but that right there, is that not fun? Okay, but then you can do another thing. Take it to the next level is that you can do another sticker and then take it off the page. Now you could cut that off and use that on another layout, or you can just simply bend it over. And then of course, you know what I say, do things in odd numbers. And then this is exactly what I did for my layout. Okay, now how fun is that? So again, this is, you could do this with labels that you punched out, so that would be your paper, but I did the quick way, and I just used label stickers. But again, that is another way of dressing up and embellishing that 3x4 little block that we used. And so right there you can see, and then I used that as a base for my title and my embellishment cluster. Very, very fun. Now let's talk about this one here. And this one, another simple thing. Okay, there's the 3. Another simple is taking this 3x4 and then using some of your edge punches, and then you're going to say this is my 3x4, and then I took another 3x4 and then I ran this through my edge punch. Okay, that's all I simply did. And then what you can do then is you can trim these off, and that way it would look a little neat and clean. You don't have this rough edge. So let's just cut off part of that. Okay, see, we have a fun little baby rattle ruffle. That won't show up. Let me find a piece of white paper. See how pretty that is? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to do, I think on mine I did 3, because I think that shows up. You know, and again, odd number, and I'm just trimming off those little pieces to give a straight, clean baby rattle image. Okay, now this is just so quick, so fun, and it's a great use of edge papers. And again, we are embellishing with paper, and that's all I did. Okay, and I have an extra one here, and then I'll show you something else you can do with that too. So what you did there, yes, is that I took that edge punch, punched those little pieces of paper with that edge punch, and see, and this is the same yellow polka dot paper on top of the same yellow polka dot paper. And then what it does is it looks like it's embellished, but then it doesn't take away from that 3x4 little block of paper. Again, embellishing with paper. Okay, and that is all that simply is right there. Very, very fun. You get a design, you get it looks embellished, but it's not overdone. Okay, so now for the next one, oh, I want to show. So another thing you can do with this, with your edge punch, okay, I'm going to trim off this little extra here and get a little clean image here, is that you can take this, something like this, cut it in half, and then you can use this as a layering piece, as a little fun piece, as a decorative little edge. Yeah, you can do that. You can put it down at the bottom. Yes. So don't forget that your punches, your edge punches, can absolutely be embellishments. It doesn't have to be a whole 12 inches all the time. Okay, so you see how I embellished that? Very fun. And then you can use that as a little tucking piece. Very, very fun. Okay. Oh, I'm getting too talky. Sorry. You can turn me off anytime. I'm just having fun. You see, I don't want to spring clean. No. So now in my last 3x4, what I did was embellished with twine. Okay. So all I simply did, and I want to show this because I got a question, how do I absolutely wrap twine? And so we're just going to do that. So when I'm doing this, I will make sure that I leave a tail. See, I have a tail about that, and I take my finger and I just hold that, and I wrap. You could wrap 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, whatever you want to do. No rule. No. We have no rules around here. No, the only rule is that we have fun, right? And then I just trim it. Okay, and then, okay, and if it starts to buckle on you, bend it out a little bit, and then you tie a knot. Okay, now I wanted to show something. When you're trying to tie a knot, you can have a third hand. Let me find it here. A third hand. I was going to use that, but I don't know. Oh man, what did I do with that? Here they are. is that a pair of tweezers can be your third hand when you're tying knots, okay? Sometimes I'll do that if sometimes my hands are shaky, and so sometimes I have to use a pair of tweezers, and so I will show that. So here is just tying a simple knot, no big deal, okay? So I can take my tweezers here, and that will hold my place, okay, until I get it together here, okay, until I want to grab my other piece, okay? Of course, you know, you have a desk and you end up working in an 8x8 spot. Does anybody else? That is me, okay? So that tweezer is just holding my place there, okay? And so then I bring that knot in and then remove your tweezers. There you go. Then you get that tight knot, okay? So then how to create a bow? Well, then you can create a bow with your tails that you have left over. But say you wrapped that twine around and you didn't give yourself enough room, and this is what you ended up with. Okay, we've all been there. Yeah, I'm like, oh my, how am I going to make a bow from that? Well, this is what I call the Tasha twine tip, because my online friend Tasha taught me this, is that you simply just tie a knot there and then you make your own bow. Okay, and so then you just take another piece of twine and you cut, and then you'll have plenty of room, and then you come where that knot is and you tie it. Okay, simple, simple. Tie it right where that knot is, and then you're going to make a bow. Okay, you're going to make a bow right there. Okay, and so then to make a bow, you just loop and loop. You know, loop, wrap around, and make another loop, just like you tie a pair of shoes, okay? But then you're like, okay, well, that doesn't look good. Okay, so the secret to making a little bow like this is to take your ears and pull them tight, okay? And don't matter how big your loops are. And then you come with your tails. See, I don't have enough room. And then you come with your tails and you slowly tighten them up. You know, make your loops smaller, okay? So I'm just pulling on those tails, making those loops smaller, and then I go back, rinse and repeat. And then I'm pulling on these loops again, and then I'm taking these tails. And every time you do that, you're making that knot right there, right there. You're making that knot a little tighter each time, okay? So I'm going to pull my ears again, my little loops, and then I just slide my tails, okay? Just keep pulling that tails. And that's how you get that fun little, I want to show that for a minute. That's how you get that fun little bow. And then you can come in here, and then here's a little tip my mom taught me back in the day. If you have a pair of scissors that's just for fabric and twine, then only use those scissors for fabric and twine. Now, I have not done that, but that's what she's told me. But these Martha Stewart scissors, I try not to use them on paper too much. Once in a while I do, but I just love these Martha Stewart scissors. I think these are probably the second best scissors I've ever owned. Yes. Okay, and so then you'll see sometimes how your loops will twist like this. Sometimes that's just the way it is because of the way the twine is wrapped on your packaging. So don't worry about it. That's just what happens. No big deal. Nothing in life is perfect, so don't expect a bow to be perfect every time. But sometimes if I want my bow to lay perfect, I will take little drops of my Tombow glue right here, and then I would absolutely just put little drops there, and that'll keep that secure. I'd even put a little bit of glue right there behind that knot, okay? Tacky glue works good too, but I always seem to use this. Okay, so that is that one, and that is how it looks like on my page right there. Absolutely. And I just left those little tails hang there because I wanted that texture. Very, very fun. Okay, so that is how to embellish with paper on top of paper. Now, of course, we got into some stickers and twine, but that's all part of having fun. Yes. Okay, so that is all I have for layout 2 using 2 photos, but remember, you do not have to. Absolutely not. And so come back in a few days. I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit because I got Kid Crunch coming up, so we got to play with that. And so that's all I have for layout 2. So come back in a couple days. We'll be playing with layout number 3 with 3 photos. And let's see, I think we're going to be playing with the band design. Yes, absolutely. So that's all I have for today. Come back because you never know what we're going to learn. Bye.